Lake Geneva has long been an enclave for the ultra-wealthy, but how did a town in Wisconsin become known for luxury, and just how many mega mansions once dotted the shores of Geneva Lake? Hi everyone, Ken here. Today we are uncovering the biggest mansions ever built in Lake Geneva. Hit that subscribe button and let's explore this house. This episode is brought to you in part by Victorian Society in America. More on them later. The story of Lake Geneva as a retreat for the wealthy begins in the mid-1800s. Initially, the area attracted settlers who were drawn to its natural resources. These dense forests provided timber, and the clear waters of Geneva Lake powered the mills that drove the local economy. Yet it wasn't until after the Civil War that the lake began to gain a reputation as a destination for relaxation and luxury. More specifically, the pivotal moment in Lake Geneva's history came in 1871. The Great Chicago Fire devastated the city, displacing thousands of residents, including many of the wealthiest families. Seeking refuge, they found solace in the serene shores of Geneva Lake, where the newly completed Chicago and Northwestern Railroad provided easy access. As the smoke cleared from the ruins of Chicago, these families, already captivated by the area's natural beauty during hunting and fishing excursions, saw the lake as the perfect escape from urban turmoil. In the years following the fire, these Chicago elites began to establish summer residences along the lakeshore. The construction of grand mansions soon followed, each more opulent than the last. By the late 19th century, Lake Geneva had earned its nickname, Newport of the West, a nod to its East Coast counterpart, Newport, Rhode Island, which was known for its Gilded Age mansions. Families like the Wrigleys, Cranes, and Schwinns transformed the lakefront into a marvel of architectural splendor, with sprawling estates that rivaled the most luxurious homes in America. These mansions weren't just summer homes, they were statements of wealth, power, and influence. Before we begin our tour of these lavish mansions, a quick word about the sponsor of today's video, Victorian Society in America. Are you obsessed with historic architecture? Have you ever wanted to go beyond reading and learning to actually experiencing historically and architecturally significant sites? With the Victorian Society in America, you can travel to American cities and tour exceptional 19th century buildings. Join the Victorian Society in America this October for an educational tour in St. Louis, Missouri. The itinerary is packed with exciting visits to key architectural sites, landscapes, and artistic gems in and around the greater St. Louis area. Click the link in the video description to visit victoriansociety.org and register today. Thank you, Victorian Society in America, for sponsoring today's video. Now back to our tour. The first house we will visit was the summer residence of Norman Wade Harris, Wadsworth Hall, which later became known as the Dree House Estate in Glenworth Gardens. Harris had been incredibly successful in his lifetime, founding the Harris Trust and Savings Bank, which later became BMO Bank. Not only was this grand residence designed to have lakeshore appeal, but the rear, formal gardens, which were designed by the Olmsted brothers, stretched into the dense forest surrounding the mansion with beauty. Though the true appeal was inside, starting with the entrance hall, which boasted a floor-to-ceiling fireplace despite being occupied only 8 weeks out of the year during the summer season. The dining room was finished out with artisan plasterwork on the ceiling, and the walls were clad in painted wood panels. But of all the grand rooms, the library was the true showstopper, with built-in bookshelves marked by fluted pilasters and a stunning coffered ceiling. Though his house was only the start of our rounds about the lake, while more modest homes were placed in the forest, others demanded a presence. The largest mansion ever constructed on Geneva Lake was Stone Manor, also known as Younglands. Otto Young had a true rags-to-riches story, starting off with a kiosk in New York City selling costume jewelry. He took his life savings to the recently scorched Chicago and bought up real estate for pennies on the dollar. His meager investments paid off, and in 1899 he built this grand manor looking out over the lake. With his net worth now approaching the modern-day equivalent of $100 million, he had nearly every room gilded and hired artists to spend years painting murals and delicately crafting plasterwork. With this in mind, we can imagine the ballroom glistening from gold leafing into marble columns and dazzling crystal chandeliers. Some of the wealthiest families built in clusters around the lake, such as the Sturgis family, with Buckingham Sturgis, George Sturgis, and Shelton Sturgis, all built in grand estates with towers overlooking the scenic lakeshore. As you traveled around, you could find a house in just about any style for the time. From the Second Empire to Queen Anne, from Italianate to the Romanesque, Lake Geneva became an architectural wonderland, boasting some of the most exuberant and flamboyant examples of each style. The refined home of J.H. Moore looked like it was plucked from the English countryside, while J.J. Mitchell's eclectic house was painted in an assemblage of vibrant colors. No two houses were identical, and beyond that, no two houses could ever be confused for being too similar either. Black Point is another estate that we can venture inside of. Coming around to the main porch, we realize just how blown out the proportions are and how massive this rambling house truly is. Despite its size, Black Point consists of numerous smaller rooms such as the entry hall. This continues to the grand staircase, tightly making its way up to the second floor. The dining room is every bit as eclectic as the exterior, with a simple tile fireplace and ornate furniture cluttering the walls. And in stark contrast, the living room is almost plain, but unlike the city mansions which were meant to be formal, it was acceptable for these summer homes to be a mishmash of styles. The sheer number of mansions circling the lake is almost unbelievable at this time period, rivaling anything you might see on Long Island or Newport. But despite the reputations of those enclaves, Lake Geneva became a place of quiet enjoyment, which would prove to be perfect for the Selfridge family. Harry Selfridge, born into a challenging family situation in 1858, supported his mother by working various jobs from a young age, eventually rising to become a junior partner at Marshall Field & Company. He married Rose Buckingham, a wealthy and ambitious real estate developer, and together they lived a prosperous life in Chicago, eventually joining Chicago's wealthy elites at Lake Geneva. Harry and Rose named their house Harrow's Hall, a combination of their names. Completed in 1899, Harrow's Hall had been finished out in the Tudor Revival style with a rusticated stone base, ornate brickwork, and half-timbered facade. The wooded lot gave way to sweeping views of the lake, with the house resting high up on a ridge. Approaching the front of the house, we travel down a winding path through a thickly forested patch of land before finding Harrow's Hall resting at the edge of the expansive lawn. Back when this house was built, if we were to pull around the carriage porch, we would dismount our buggy and greet the family dog before heading inside. Entering Harrow's Hall, we immediately face the grand double staircase boasting elaborate Gothic tracery. At its landing, a tufted sofa rounds out with the balustrade, allowing us to sit down and enjoy the intricate fretwork surrounding us. This leads our eyes upwards, where we find Gothic tracery rounding out in front of metallic paint glowing from the domed, leaded glass skylight. Had we ventured to the right after entering, we would have found the parlor overlooking Lake Geneva. And while the views are picture perfect, the Gothic fireplace does its best to compete for the spotlight. Let's cut back across the stair hall, leaving the parlor to find the dining room sitting opposite from us. Above us, the plaster ceiling swirls with Gothic tracery, decorated further by hand-stenciled flowering vines. The built-in sideboard extends all the way to the frieze and is flanked by murals depicting the family in an idealistic natural setting. To the far end of the dining room, we look out once again over Lake Geneva, realizing that the house has views of the water from three sides. What was once an untouched lake, hidden in dense forest, was now on the verge of being overdeveloped. As these grand estates rose, so did a new local industry, one dedicated to serving the needs of the wealthy. The construction and maintenance of these mansions required skilled labor, and household employment became a significant source of income for many local residents. This required shops, restaurants, and hotels, which only expanded development further as tourism brought in thousands of visitors every summer. The town of Lake Geneva flourished, its economy buoyed by the influx of wealth and the steady demand for goods and services. By the early 1900s, Lake Geneva had firmly established itself as a premier summer destination for the elite. The lake's allure has endured through the decades, with many of the historic mansions still standing as a testament to the area's gilded past. Today, visitors can stroll along the Geneva Lakeshore Path, where they can glimpse these grand estates, a reminder of the time when Lake Geneva was the retreat of choice for the Midwest's most affluent families. What did you think about these grand mansions? Did you have a favorite? Let me know down below in the comments section. I'd also like to thank Victorian Society in America for sponsoring today's video. Make sure to check out the link in the video description to find out more about their upcoming tour. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time on This House.